There are certain individuals out there who feel really, really just secure with money. They have enough, their life is good, they're building wealth, they're making income, and they are feeling successful and good about themselves. They know how it works, and they know how to live a life with money, not as an enemy, but as an asset and as a support for living the life that you want to live. But then there are those who fall on the other side of the spectrum who are very, very insecure about money. Have a lot of narratives built up about it that's like, oh, I don't have enough. I'm only worthy through achievement, through responsibility, through effort alone. When you can just enjoy the pleasures and really be present with what you have and know there will always be enough. That's your golden ticket to the chocolate factory. In this video, in this episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast, I'm going to be discussing Saturn in Taurus in the birth chart. This is very, very similar to having Saturn in the second house for individuals that have this. I have a family member very, very close to me who has this placement, and in the second house. So you kind of have a double dose of Taurus and second house energy. So this energy is amplified. You want to look at the house that your Saturn falls in. You also want to look at the aspects that Saturn makes to your planets and what other planets make to your Saturn. So that also is very, very important here. Now, discussing Saturn. Saturn represents what we are limited by, represents what holds us back, what we keep ourselves from experiencing, what we keep ourselves from living. What reality do we keep ourselves from living? Whatever sign and area of life, that is the area that we have some real work to do because we hold ourselves back in this area of life. Maybe sabotaging ourselves, maybe limiting ourselves, maybe holding ourselves back from really stepping into the potential of what we could become and flower into with that sign, with that house. Now, Saturn doesn't want to push the boundaries. Wants to keep everything very, very safe, very, very secure, very, very battened down, and very together. Wants to keep everything together. An astrologer that I was listening to last night described Taurus energy as wanting their life to be set. Taurus, which is the sign that Saturn's in, a good job, a nice house, good food, all this stable elements. That's what they want for their life. That's what Taurus wants for its life. Is it for it to be set? So, Saturn doesn't want to push the boundaries. Wants to stay very, very secure. It's kind of, negative in this way. You can also look at the cynical elements of reality. Saturn was the last planet before all the other outer planets were discovered. So that was the boundary. That was the limitation. And Saturn likes to keep to the old ways of doing things. It is not open to change and innovation and trying new solutions for things. So if you want to be an innovator and want to come up with and explore and experience new solutions, you need to push the boundaries and you need to take those risks. Otherwise, what's the point? A huge part of life is going to be on what you're comfortable with and taking those kind of risks. And being comfortable with taking risks is a really, really huge thing with Saturn in Taurus. Now, Saturn keeps to what is going on right here and now. what is going on and what I can taste, touch, see, and hear. That's what Saturn does. It keeps to the reality. It is so... The opposite of this is not aware of reality at all. It is the exact opposite. It is so hyper-focused and so aware of reality. So aware of all the aspects of reality. And maybe all the negative aspects of reality. The hard, very heavy, practical elements of reality. It's that part of us that, well, just, we try to push reality under the carpet. Then we're gonna bury our head in the sand, and then, well, in order to live in this world, certain realities have to be faced, and that's kind of the lesson of Saturn, and people who have a lot of strong Saturn in their charts. Meaning that they have a lot of planets aspecting it, or, a lot of placements in Capricorn or Aquarius, for instance. So, there's a time of Saturn returns, and I'm well aware of this. 7 years before my Saturn return. 7 years later, I'm going to be in a very, very different place. 7 years later, 8 years later, Saturn is going to be in Cancer at 7 degrees. When I'm going to have my Saturn return, 2032, I do believe. And at that time, Uranus will just start to dip into Cancer. So Saturn will be in Cancer, Uranus will be in Cancer. So the Cancerian energy will start to come in very, very strongly. Towards the end of the 2030s, the North Node will then return to Cancer, like it was back in 2019. So I'm going to discuss the astrology when we get there. That's a long time from now. So we don't have to worry about it. But Saturn returns come in and ask you to really look at yourself in the mirror. And ask you to see very, very closely what's going on in your life. What are the lessons that you have to face in your life? What have you done in your life so far, and how is it working out for you? How, checking with this one, how somebody says, how is it working out for you? Like Saturn, Saturn is the teacher that sits you down in the principal's office and says, how is this working out for you? Like, it's an assessment to see how far along you are in the path of the practical Saturnian lessons of whatever your Saturn sign is. And it's known as this fear or difficult time, but really it's a rite of passage between becoming in your 20s to then settling down, getting married, having kids. Hopefully around that time, or a little bit before that time, I will get married and find somebody, because I do have like what I want in my life. I do not want children, but I would like to be married to a wife that is very, very compatible with me. That we support each other, the relationship is mutual. I mean, if I had to choose her chart, I would say Taurus, Sun, Aries, North Node. I'm an Aries, Sun, Taurus, North Node, so there you go. But anyway, just, well, whatever the astrology indicates with that potential wife, we would be compatible, and we would support each other. I cannot go through this world alone. I cannot survive in this world alone, and I know that about myself right now in life, and I'm very, very aware of that. Like, I know myself enough to know that. So, it asks you to do things that may be very, very different from what you experience currently. It asks you to look at, well, this is what I've done, or this is what I haven't done in my reality, and I'm now changing it. Excuse me. Now, I'm now changing it. I'm doing the things that I wished that I did, and doing it in the future. Now, I do have a video on Saturn return on YouTube for you that I reposted from my original channel. You can go check out. I filmed it March of 2023. I go very in depth on what Saturn return is. I'll eventually do a podcast episode about it here, but anyway, I have it, written down in my videos to make in my list, so I will eventually get to it when I feel like I want to get to it. But anyway, so, alright, so whatever sign and areas of life Saturn is in your chart, it brings a sense of challenges and difficulty to this area of life. Saturn moves over this area of life in your chart, and then challenges come. Difficulties come. You experience obstacles. You experience all this stuff. Now, when it comes to Saturn in Taurus specifically, it takes some time. It takes a lot of time. It takes some time to achieve their goals. Like with Saturn and Taurus, it is a slow burn where you have to surrender to the fact that things are going to take a long time. And things are going to take as long as they're going to take. Don't rush the process. Don't overwork yourself. Just surrender to the fact that it's going to take however long it's going to take. And to not be intimidated by the long process ahead. Or if you are intimidated, approach it in a very, very slow and steady way. So, and they live with this. So they accept that goals will take longer to be achieved. Well, not all goals, but some goals will take longer to be achieved than other goals. That's, for sure and certain. They have a lot of willpower. They have a stick-it-to-itness. They have a stubborn will to just keep on going. Start a goal, and then reach the end goal of completion of it. They see things to completion. They do all these things to completion, really, because they are all about seeing things through. They're good at creating a reliable structure for their life. At best, Saturn creates structure. Best Saturn, because Saturn is, Saturn is structure. It's the structures that we set out for ourselves in our life that create stability for us. And something, Taurus wants to create something sustainable and stable and reliable. That's what they're all about, because that's Taurus energy. And they want plans that are long-term plans. That's also huge. So, creating these long-term endeavors, long-term deals is what they're doing. So they may be frustrated about responsibilities that take a lot of time, that take a long-term effort. There's a frustration with these responsibilities. And they also sacrifice the safety for themselves. They may... Here's the deal. Here's the reason why they sacrifice their own safety, sacrifice others' safety for themselves. Is because they don't feel like there's enough to go around. They don't feel like they have quite enough to be able to, to do this in a really, really effective, easy way. So they sacrifice others' safety for their own safety. Because of this insecurity that I'm going to get into all this insecurity. Because Saturn indicates a lot of insecurities, a lot of setbacks. So know, if you have this placement, that you have enough. You have enough money, resources, everything. More on that later. But anyway, there's a need for stability and cornucopia when it comes to setbacks and limitations. It must be plentiful. And here's the deal. You don't feel like it's plentiful enough. You don't feel like you have quite enough. You just don't feel like you have enough. Like it's this sense of lack that you feel about resources and money. Now, some people with this placement were taught that their value was measured by how efficient and how industrious and how hardworking they would be. Like that's what they put their entire value into, is how, is the productivity of it. Constantly producing. Keeping themselves from experiencing ease and satisfaction. Feeling like I'm only worthy if I just work, and just put one foot in front of the other, and you keep working, and you don't enjoy what you have already. Now, this sounds very, very familiar to me, because the South Node in Taurus, North Node in Scorpio is very, very similar to this placement. I would say all the Saturn placements, there's a similarity between the Saturn placements and the South Node placements. There's a lot of overlap with it. There's a lot of, tie over, crossover with that. So, you're blocking yourself from experiencing ease and satisfaction in your life, and there's this genuine enjoyment that you're keeping yourself from experiencing about life. And that ease and satisfaction are luxuries. Not things that you are inherently worthy of, not things that you can easily experience. They are luxuries. Not true. You think that these can only be experienced by those who have done the work, by those who have proven that they are hardworking and worthy, and for those who have really put in the time and invested. But the fact is, those are rights. Human, natural rights that you have to experience. They're inherent things. You can experience ease and satisfaction. Okay. So, the big thing with this placement, you have an anxiety and deep-seated fear about money. Now, could I see myself turning into this? Unfortunately, yes. I do not want to become somebody who mirrors back Saturn Taurus qualities, because my North Node's in Taurus. And I have some choice words to say about certain aspects of money, and money in general, really. But I made peace with several things about money, but there were some things that I am just not going to be willing to just accept about it, and that's just who I am, and that's just life, and I'm not going to bend just because life just is a whirlpool that sucks me in. Like, I'm going to be strong in my beliefs about what I believe in this life. Hear me, older self. I'm going to stick to this. So, there's this, not only money, but your resources, your sense of stability about yourself. Like, this is the feeling you get. Now, being valuable. Is really, really important. And, what does it mean to be valuable? It doesn't mean that you're defined by your resources alone. It means that you're inherently worthy on your own. That's kind of a strong running theme throughout this video. And then having a strong sense of self-worth about yourself. That's also very, very important. So, feeling very, very good in your own skin and secure within yourself is also part of it when it comes to getting your resources. You're here to redefine self-worth. It's not through just possessions and just money alone. Self-worth is inherent. And you don't need money and possessions to define your worth and identity. And that's the real truth of it. So, there's a sense of worth needing to be earned, and you must prove your worth and value for your efforts. This is something that I discussed with the Taurus South Nodes. If you want to check out in this podcast a video about the Taurus South Node and Scorpio North Node, I discussed this in depth, where they work so hard, and they feel like they're only worthy through their work, and through how they provide, and through all this. And you're very, very similar to this. A really, really huge thing is you are worthy of rest. You're worthy of enjoyment of the physical pleasures right here and now, of what you can enjoy in the moment, all the essential things. And, you don't have to always work and always earn and prove all the time. That's not what you should be doing. I'm not going to preach to you, but I don't want you to fall into that trap. I don't want you to fall into that hole right then and there. So, you may also deny yourself the comforts of life. And, coming back to Taurus South Nodes, they are here to really experience the comforts and joy and essential things in life, because that's Taurus. But through having to do that, in order to do that, they have to evolve to Scorpio, letting go of certain things, certain possessions, certain ways of being that are just stuck and old and not serving them anymore. So you are here as a Saturn and Taurus person to enjoy the comfort, the comforts of life, the comforts of what you have. Not feeling guilty about it. Not feeling guilty about enjoying all the things that you have in your life. Not feeling guilty this whole conditioning around you don't need more than you need. I have a short about this that came out of my channel April 3rd or 4th. A clip from one of my earliest videos on my original channel. Which talks about not needing more than you need. So, there's this guilt here of, I can't have anything that's just not the essential survival needs. Food, shelter, money, clothes, whatever. Couch. I don't know if that's the thing. The bare bones of just essential things. Where there's this feeling of like, I'm not being worthy to have the things that you enjoy. That you're only worthy of getting what you need to survive. That you can only afford what you need to have to survive. That is a huge part of what you have going on within you. Mentally, emotionally. Is that, about if you have anything that's not essential, when it comes to things that you enjoy, that you decorate your life with, there's guilt, like I can't have this. It's going to be taken from me. I didn't have enough. And good grief, I didn't feel enough. I didn't feel quite enough. So you struggle with allowing yourself to spend your money on what you want to buy, because there's this fear of losing money. There's this fear that if I spend my money on what I want, I'm not going to have enough to provide for my basic needs. There's this fear of spending money. Spending money, this feeling like, if I spend money, then I'm going to lose a lot of money. That's not how it is. Money, well, from my understanding, is an exchange of something. What you put out, you get back, and it's exchanged. So, becoming very, very educated about money is very, very important for this placement, I would say. And I am not the right person to give you the expertise on money. I'm going to hand my power over to financial advisors and all those kind of people. So I can't go in depth about that and expand on any of that in this video. So, feeling like there's always more work to be done. There's always more work to be done. I'm never going to be there enough. I'm never going to reach my goals and achieve my goals and have everything that I want to have. I'm never going to reach that end goal to then be able to enjoy my life, to then be able to experience all the things in my life and be able to buy what I want to buy. And there's this need to always keep building, working, and not stopping. And just relaxing and just mindfully engaging with life, which I'm going to talk about later. Maybe a parent depended on you growing up to provide for them. That could be a possibility. And I'm not saying that this is a guarantee, but maybe in your experience, because it's a wide world out there, some people may have had this experience where you were taught that you had to provide for the family, that you had to provide for yourself, that you had to take care of yourself and nobody else could take care of you. And where they controlled you and conditioned you into negative narratives on money and security. Now, at the low road, this can be hoarding things. Hoarding possessions. Hoarding possessions. So at worst, Taurus energy can just take and acquire and accumulate. Because you feel like well, someday I'm going to get around to using it. So you just accumulate and accumulate all these possessions until you have so many possessions that you don't know what to do with them. Like, notice around you what you don't need and let go of it. Release it. So, you may be very, very concerned about things like owning a house, having a certain level of income, accumulating possessions. And you think that once you get all of these things, you'll feel secure. Once you get enough money and, work enough hours and get all of these things, that you'll feel secure. But then you actually don't feel secure. It's this never-ending insecurity. So the trick with this placement is to slowly and steadily grow your money. With patient and consistent effort. That's the key for you. Is to not rush the process and to keep at it, to stay the course, to keep, walking up that hill. Keep trekking up that hill. This is really, really big. You need to... I'm not going to preach. I was about to, but I'm not going to. It's very, very healthy for you to learn how money works. To frame the narrative of scarcity around it. Scarcity around. Okay. So, learning how it works so that you can see it in a different light, see it in a more positive light, that you can change your perspective on it through this understanding. Here's the thing that really, really annoys me with people. Is when they complain about money and how hard it is and how expensive things are and how difficult it is and how I have to pay for this and how I don't have enough money for this and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh my gosh, I have Neptune in the second house. I do not need to hear any of that. I know that, one person in my family is realistic about it in a way where they are not, pessimistic. And very negative Nelly about it. The person in my life who has this is kind of not that, because they kind of complain about, say, oh, well, it's this amount of money, so I guess I have to buy it. Stop being pessimistic about money. That's all I can say. It's very, 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 very simple. And try to see it in a more positive light. Now, learning how money is built. We're learning how wealth is built. How you can take risks when it comes to money. You're afraid of taking risks this life. In this lifetime, you are afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone because you're going to lose money. And all these kind of things like that. Staying in the same job over and over again. Wearing the same clothes over and over again. Sacrificing one essential need for another essential need. That is not going to be my reality. That is for sure and certain, most definitely not going to be my reality. I do not choose to feed that reality. I do not choose to live in that reality. With money, I create my own reality that is true for me about it. And everybody deserves to do the same. Now, worth doesn't have to be earned. Your worth, just being alive makes you worthy. Just by being makes you worthy. You don't have to earn anything to feel worthy. Worth is not a thing that is owned. Or, excuse me. That was me in my speech voice. Pretend this is me back in the day when I had a speech impediment. Earned is what I meant to say. I said owned, O-W-N-E-D, so it's my speech. Earned. It's not that. That's the real truth of it. So, there's this belief that if you earn enough and produce enough and work hard enough, you'll eventually be worthy of peace and love. If you just do enough stuff in the external world. If I just work hard enough and just slave away at it, work at it and chip away at it and be very, very ambitious with it and, keep to it and keep on keeping on and, do all this stuff and stick it out, then I'll eventually be worthy of peace and love. And that is not true at all. So you don't have to take all these resources and hoard them and keep them. It's about letting your cup overflow in this life with resources that you have that can pour out onto, that you can pour out onto others when you share them. It's about allowing your resources to be plentiful and just letting them go without always needing to hold on because you're afraid that, they're so precious and you're going to lose them. And you're not allowing yourself to enjoy them. Like when you feel secure inside yourself and you enjoy these things, you know what? I can give some of these things away because I have enough already and I'm allowing myself to enjoy what I have already. Because there's this enoughness here. That's what it comes down to. So, there's this generosity piece when it comes to giving. Know that when you just give your money, it's not like you're losing it. It's about receiving what you give back, like allowing yourself to receive this life. Allowing yourself to receive money back, resources back. So, you can take your fear of scarcity and you can become very, very wise and savvy about finances. You can spend and save in a way where you are breathing easy instead of getting caught in the anxiety and the worry. And you can build your wealth for the long term. Building your wealth for the long term is also really, really huge. Now, you can be the one that others come to for financial advice. With managing your money. Being a financial advisor is maybe a career choice you could consider in your life, but you don't have to. Just being in a role or any position in life where you're very, very knowledgeable in giving advice for people, on money. Becoming very wise about it, becoming very smart about it. And then finding worth and value in high quality things, like being able to recognize the quality of things. Being able to invest in things that you like the quality of. Allowing yourself to indulge yourself in these high quality things that you're very, very drawn to, that you enjoy. These high quality clothes or food or whatever. Very important to live mindfully. being present. To really see the value of when you have to make yourself feel more comfortable and secure, and also just looking around, because Taurus is also the essential things that, the earth, the bounty of the earth. So looking at all the beauty that life has to offer, getting out of this scarcity and this anxiety and this worry about the material world, and just focus on the earthly, realm of the more simple things when it comes to what you can experience with your five senses. So you can guide others out of the fear of not having enough money, and you can give others an education on it. It takes discipline and patience when it comes to achieving wealth. And that is the real, truth of it. Is that it will take some time, it will take some work. Again, slow process. But instead of the anxiety, instead of the dwelling on the negatives, instead of all the negatives about money that you dwell on and just fixate on, breathe and just live in a very, very, like, you don't have to live in a reality where you are feeling so negatively about money, or where your life is bad and ruined because of money. You are upset at the inconvenience of money. You can live a life where you are having the ease, where money does not have to be a thing which causes you problems, but gives you satisfaction. Like, to be honest, I do not want to be looking at a bill that's like not paid or whatever, and the bill went up, and then, putting my head in my hands, now sad that is, like, if this should ever happen, I do want somebody to support me with taking care of those details that may very well come up, but I do not want to be burdened with having to deal with that in my life. That is not the reality that I choose to live with money. That is not the reality that I choose to feed and engage in with money. And I will claim that. Intense and pine. I'm not going to engage in it. So, you may be the one in your family who understands resources and shares that understanding with others. The downside of Saturn and Taurus is hoarding, where you feel like you're unable to give up these resources and let them go. But the key lesson here, reinforcing this, is that trusting is having trust that there will always be enough money and resources to go around. There will always be enough stuff to go around in your life. So not being, and there will always be enough, Taurus. Always. Even if you think that there isn't, there always is, because there always is enough. And so it's about recognizing what enoughness there exists in the world and in your present reality. So, having more positive affirmations about money. Like prosperity affirmations, I would highly recommend to you practicing prosperity affirmations, financial affirmations about money. I would really, really recommend to you, journal about it and do all the spiritual stuff when it comes to it, because I think that's really going to help you get into a more positive mindset with it. So, and your resources to go around, and, to not be afraid to let certain things go. So, money, you're learning in this life that money cannot buy happiness. Money does not buy joy. If I have to be perfectly honest, certain things that you do buy, give you joy, but there's also, intrinsic joy and just things that, money can't buy. But it doesn't define your worth. Money does not define your worth. And there's this internal feeling of scarcity that which you can let go of. Releasing that internal feeling of scarcity. It's good to just sit down and affirm, I have enough of X, Y, Z. I have enough food. I have enough grains. I have enough vegetables. I have enough chairs. I have enough love in my heart. It's not just money, but it's just scarcity of just life in general. It can go beyond money even. Just contemplating all the things that you can think of that you have enough of. Enough books, enough resources to listen to. Enough plants in my garden. The list can go on and on. But contemplating and sitting down, of what you have enough of is really, really huge. Now, balancing giving and receiving. Not over-providing and just receiving back resources and money, not always having to earn it all the time. And really building security through consistent effort. Allowing yourself to fully enjoy comfort. That there will always be enough resources. And then openly sharing your knowledge about finances and about money. And not being afraid to share what you know with others. Okay, so that is all that I wanted to say about, this was a shorter one than the last one, the previous ones. On Saturn, the sign of Taurus, and the natal birth chart. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you back for hopefully I can wake up tomorrow morning earlier, because as I realize that the day just went by really, really quickly, and I just preferably like to get these done in the morning so that I have the afternoon and the evening. But tomorrow I want to do an episode on Pluto in the first house, because I have that placement, and there may be some very, very profound things that I may go into with the transformation of identity and the letting go of a lot of stuff in your life, and it's very, very, very huge when it comes to shadow work and all those kind of things. So I'll be discussing that tomorrow's podcast, but thank you for tuning in to the Cosmic Sky podcast. Share this with someone who has Saturn and Taurus, someone who's just enthusiastic about astrology or is interested in astrology. Like this video, do all these things, follow this podcast, and I will see you in the next episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast. Take good care.